See our children in diaspora, 15 years. Out of their own wish. Children are supposed to be in school. These are the great future leaders of Nigeria in diaspora. 15 years. 3 children from one father, same mother from Imo State.
This clip you're seeing shows the over 10 teenage girls who were trafficked to Ghana by an unidentified man under the disguise of sales work with the chairman of the Nigerian Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri-Erewa, after they were rescued. Mrs. Abike Dabiri-Erewa has now commended efforts by the Nigerian Diaspora Organization in Ghana leading to the arrest of suspects. Ms. Dabiri-Erewa also mentioned that the culprit will be charged to court in Ghana and arrangements are going to bring the rescued girls back to Nigeria.
You have a fantastic governor, wonderful, and his wife is also wonderful.
Now, joining us in the studio is a certified cognitive behavioral therapist, Wemima Debi. Good to see you this morning.
Good to be here.
Yeah, it's always good when you have a woman talk about, advocate for the women cause, because we talk about these oftentimes. But if you look at this recent development, vis-a-vis what the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, Nigeria and Ghana, that they said Nigeria rather and Ghana are among the top 5 countries in West Africa for human trafficking. So, what do you consider to be the root causes of this issue? And how do you think government can address them?
Okay, thank you very much, because I actually thought about this exact question. I was able to narrow it down to 2 major causes. The first is, how do I put it? The first is actually lack of education on the sides of the girls. I will explain what I meant by that. So many people believe that schooling and, the 4 walls, no. A lot of them are not educated based on the ills, the evils that comes with being trafficked. And at the same time, most of these girls do not understand that the caveat around it is called work. And they are not being educated to ask the question, what kind of work? Now, some of them have an idea of the kind of work, but they just believe it's something I will be able to do so long as I'm able to survive.
Make more money.
Basically. So I say lack of education. And the second thing I would mention in this regard is most of them are actually from an abused background, running away from something, trying to look for ways of survival and, different kind of things like that. And some of them have come down with battered emotion, battered low esteem and all. So being able to find a pathway to run away from poverty is one of the major causes.
All right. So to your point on poverty, many have argued that poverty is one of the major issues that led some of these girls to this.
Yeah.
But if you look at the statistics from the international, the IOM, and the National Bureau of Statistics, if you look at some of the poorest states in Nigeria, they're more of the northern part. And if you look at the number of Nigerians leaving the country, especially through this means, are from the southern part. Now, this sort of spells that there is something beyond poverty and not just the issue of poverty. I understand that lack of education and not just the 4 walls of the school. But what is the place of cognitive psychology in addressing some of these issues?
Okay, now, like I said earlier, they are not being educated, basically, on the ills. That's one, and the other part. And also, I'll also say that, most of these girls are not really open to, they are not being sensitized, all right? And there's also the part of what I will tag as the poverty of the mind. In the area of believing it's until I'm able to bring in something before I am a human, until I'm able to bring the result before I am seen as human. And, part of what looking at following this news and everything, I could also see that there's also the place of the cultural factor, where the people you mentioned from that axis believe when you get to a certain age, certain stage, you should be able to fend for yourself. Then you are not supposed to be under my roof in terms of parental guidance. You should be able to go out there in search of greener pasture, look for this and look for that for yourself. And also, we should not forget that some of these girls are being recruited by their peers as well, in the sense that some of them already have, their friends who are being attached to some of these people who says, go talk to your friend, bring them in, you have a cut in it. So we have a lot going on underneath that we're not seeing on the surface.
Talking about data and stats, the Nigerian government has convicted only 336 traffickers, or less than 400 since 2004, despite having over 4,000 reported cases. What would you consider the challenges in prosecuting human traffickers, and how can legal frameworks be strengthened to avert this? I mean, to deter this?
That's a very heavy one, because when you look at this trafficking sector, because it's a sector, it's a cabal, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is. And it's not a peculiar situation to Nigeria alone. Okay, it's more or less like a global issue. And I would suggest, looking at what you've mentioned, that there are laws in place. However, the implementation is what we need to look into. Come up with stringent laws and then effect them. And also, when someone is convicted, you don't deal with it behind closed doors. Bring them to the open, because as far as I'm concerned, we are yet to see who these people are.
So you're advocating naming and shaming?
Well, not shaming particularly, because even those who seem to be in the business themselves, if you trace it back, okay, they are aware it's a criminal act. However, it's still this instinct, this this hunt for survivor. So there is still a common phrase, survivor. All right. However, there are other means by which you can survive. So what I say is, let people be held accountable. Okay. Let them understand that this and this are the things you have done according to the law, and then enforce it and prosecute them, and let everyone see who they truly are.
Well, apart from enforcement and having some of these stringent laws, I think we also need to work on the mentality of many Nigerians.
Yeah.
Just recently, and even up till now, we still have the Jackpot syndrome, like you mentioned about survival. Right. And it's an Herculean task to even convince an average Nigerian not to leave the country, because they believe that crossing over, they're going to be picking dollars.
Especially those who go through the illegal immigrant routes. Even
those who go through the illegal, and those who even go through the legal, and then they're being deceived. How should we address this holistically in terms of working on the psychology of Nigerians to be able to understand that they can't make as much as they make also in this country?
All right. Now, you see, when it comes to this issue, it's exploitation. All right. You cannot actually become who you truly should be if your mindset is not straightened up. Because there is this belief that it's greener out there, it's greener, it's better here, it's better, it's better out there and all. So we need to let people understand, and not with adults, because I can see that our young girls, our young boys, the youth are getting it all wrong, believing that I can't be who I'm supposed to be here, and then attaching the true essence of their identity to what they can bring to the table. So the mindset needs to be straightened up, and this is why awareness is very important. Awareness, sensitization, okay, identity recreation, all right, presenting to them who they truly are. It's not about, like I said, it's not about, your worth is not attached to the cheap labor you are able to give or what somebody is able to milk out of you. It's about rediscovering who you truly are and then being able to explore yourself for real.
So let's look at these, vis-a-vis the health implication for the victims, because we talk about the victims, talk about those who are perpetrators, we talk about the route, the channel and all of that. So if you look at post-pandemic COVID-19, it has actually exacerbated vulnerabilities of human, trafficking victims. So what do you consider the public health strategies that, can be implemented to support the victims and prevent further exploitation?
Okay, the first thing I'll say is awareness. Okay, awareness. Because a lot of people are still falling victim, in this, this field and all of that. Let's create an awareness. And then I'll say people at the top, all right, should partner with the grassroots people and let them know, because they know who the perpetrators are and they actually know the next victim somehow. And also I'll say that, so
in knowing that, sorry to cut you short, knowing the next victim, does this also lead to, if I want to link it to the question Olamide asked, the avaricious or the covetous nature of maybe the youth who are, they are bent on, the land is green on the outside, on the other side. Does that make them, easily,
easy prey,
easy prey.
It does. It does. Because there is this mentality of hit it high, okay? Make it, whether you're a male or female, as in the end would justify the means without presenting to them the consequences of the means. All right. And being trafficked is one of the major ways by which they move on in that light. So I say, like I said, awareness, sensitization, and also for those who have been rescued, okay? Maybe I say the survivors, let me use that word. We need to also create an atmosphere of acceptance, because a lot of them have been battered mentally, emotionally. They feel their dignity is no longer going to be honored. Yeah. And, so people need to be sensitized. Anyone could fall victim of this particular, being trafficked. However, we have so many people who are more prone to it. Okay, in terms of the young girls and people who want to live large, want to hit it hard, in good time. So those are just some of the ways I can
So while we
that.
also acknowledge the existence of some youth and some other factors, they want to live large, the grass is greener on the other side. For this particular story where the chairman of NIDCOM was trying to intervene, some of these girls are 15 years, some are younger. So while we are also mentioning the fact that some of the youth are involved in this, these are also teenage girls.
Yeah.
And so this also brings us to the role of parenting. Because you cannot say, when you mention awareness, some of these parents are aware. This also brings us to child slavery, some using children as housemates in this same states that we are in. So when you mention awareness, some of these parents are actually aware. So awareness is not just the only, solution to this. What other factors do you think are in place here and should be addressed?
All right. I want to go back to what you said. Some of those parents may be aware, but may not be aware of what exactly it is their kids are going out there to do. They just present it to them as work. All right. And some may not even understand, okay, the intensity of the work. All right. For how long, because they deceive them, they lie to them. And when they cross over, they lose touch and they can't have access to their kids anymore.
What I'm asking is,
okay,
why will a parent send a 15-year-old to work?
To work?
Yes.
Because she lacks understanding, she lacks knowledge. She's not aware of the right of the child. That a 15-year-old is not supposed to work. The human rights and child rights say a child is supposed to be educated to be in school. If you're not in the regular school, you should either go into a vocational schooling. Okay, so even the parents themselves need to be educated, because all they have at the back of their mind is go make it, go bring in the money. All right, anyhow, let's just survive. And we also need to bear in mind that some of those parents were also victims of circumstances themselves. So they want to live their life through their children, believing you would be, the sheep that should take away all our sorrows and all of that. So basically.
let's bring more of your expertise to bear, in this conversation, because if you look at the signs and symptoms of trauma that victims of human trafficking may exhibit, after the experience they have, how do you feel, or how do you think, or how do victims of human trafficking develop, that coping mechanisms to deal with their traumatic experience?
Okay, to start with, the moment they have been, they found themselves in that situation, there's something in every human, they switch into survival mode. And survival mode could be negative or positive, where you either come up with a coping skill that keeps you hanging there, or you come up with a negative coping skill that makes you become vulnerable and aggressive. So it depends on the two sides that this individual may have found themselves. However, the key word there is survival mode, basically. And it can be so, they can get so deeply engrossed in it that they get into a mode where they become carefree, all right? And they are more prone. They, permit me to use the word, they feel I've been sold out, I can as well continue to sell out, basically. So we need to bear that in mind. And also, there is also the place of depression. A lot of them cannot deal with depression, but they are actually, soaring in that depressive condition, believing that someday, maybe somehow, they would find, respite. And also, there's also the place of them becoming suicidal. That is always the end of the whole thing, where if they don't come up with antisocial behavior, where they go into substance use and they become more loose and all of that, they prefer to end their lives.
I don't know whether you saw the story that trended on social media recently of a lady who is an actress, interviewed a lady who said she was sexually abused when she was young by maybe the brother or the uncle, and then the sister, just a relative. And then she was interviewed by this lady actress, I guess being played or something. I can't remember her name. I'm not sure whether you saw it. After a day, Nigerians, bullying the lady, saying that it was a lie, that she had 2 dogs, doing whatever, and then she committed suicide. The lady, coming out, crying that she, for the first time in her own career, she felt like she was a failure. How do you see, especially Nigerians, let's just domesticate it, localize it, Nigerians, receiving these people, understanding what they go through in their innermost mind, and helping them to live through these experiences rather than stigmatizing them or assuming that they just wanted to trend?
Well, this is it. A lot of us around here do not yet understand what mental health is about. Okay, so once someone is able to gather the strength to speak up, the next thing is you judge, you victimize, okay, you castigate, because there is this lack of understanding of what we call the impact of social bullying. Where you pick on this individual and then you use their weak point as a flogging, to flog them. And we need to say that these are some of the things that are holding people back from speaking up, from opening up, from embracing their past, and not allowing it define them, to move on. So it still boils down to creating this awareness. We need to let people know that allow people be who they want to be, in the area of allow them speak up. Okay, I want to speak up, all right? Or I'm speaking up, I have said this, I've said that. It's the person's experience, it's the person's life, okay? Sharing it. We need to start to get to the point where you respect people's experiences, okay? Respect their issues. When they come out to speak up, it's not time to victimize, to judge, because that kills faster than the issue they may have been living with all along.
And we expect some of these issues that you've mentioned to be brought to the fore as soon as possible. But as these girls are coming back this week, what are the immediate needs that should be provided for them? They're underage girls. They have left the country for a while. And so I would say they do not even have the knowledge of the physical terrain of the environment anyways. And we also have this issue of stigmatization, so as to prevent these girls from going back to them? Because even some
Yeah.
of these criminals that are
Stockholm
involved
syndrome.
in drugs and all, most times go back even after they're rescued.
Well, I'll say backup empowerment program is very key for them. Because if you win them off something, you must hand something over to them. All right? So we need to start to think about backup empowerment program. However, rehabilitation is very important. You prepare their mind. Okay? This has happened to you. Don't help them deny the situation, the reality of what they found themselves into. And then we should also embrace them. It's not their fault because they are still children. Okay? They ought to have been guided. They ought to have been properly handled. Okay? They ought to have been sensitized, educated. All right? So, but they were denied that opportunity and they fell into wrong hands. So we should let them know that it's not their fault. That's, and also, apart from the backup empowerment plan, we need to also, hand them over to psychologists because it's going to be a very long journey. And you will discover that before some of them got into the hand of the traffickers, they must have had history of abuse, either abandonment, maybe they were sexually abused, and, they are roaming about fending for themselves.
It's not usually a willy-nilly thing.
It is not. However, their environment, their atmosphere, the experience of life they had gave them the willpower to go into it naturally. So basically, as a counseling therapy, backup empowerment program should be for them, really. And they must be thoroughly empowered, monitored, and handed over to trusted.
And speaking of empowerment, Nigeria's National Action Plan on Human Trafficking 2022 to 2026 aims to strengthen victim support services, according to the information. So, how do you think? Because it's one thing to say we want to do this; it's another thing to for us to see results. So, how do you think governments can ensure adequate funding and resources for these efforts, especially with the fight, with labor and all of that needed? There's no money, removal of fuel subsidy, and all of that.
Okay, the effectiveness of this will come basically from the grassroots level, okay? Back home, all right? Local government, families, and NGOs should just go for them and take it upon themselves to, remove them from that environment and repackage their mindset and release them back into the society, and they will deliver good.
All right, very quickly, let's just go off a bit. Earlier in the week, we had the minister saying that they will be stopping hotels from lodging underage girls in the country. What's your view about that?
Well, the word underage has explained it. Hotels are not supposed to be
in the first place
for underage
For
girls. And anyone, okay, anyone who comes, permit me to use the word, an underage is a potential trafficker. So we need to start dealing with them in that light. Not just an adult who says because you look all endowed, all right, and then you are up to it. Even if, okay, I say that no adult, no responsible individual should have anything to do with an underage in an hotel.
Very quickly, just in less than a minute, do we have successful stories of those who have experienced this and then are now doing well?
Of course, and that's why we want to encourage them to come out and speak. Because the ones who have been rehabilitated, who have found their feet, should come out, all right, and make yourself, how do I put it, the advocate, and say, I was in this, I came out, so that others would have hope that, okay, my life will not end, where you found me, or the fact that you brought me in, I can still make something good out of my life. So such an individual can collaborate with NGOs, sensitize people, and use yourself as a good example.
Thank you very kindly. A certified cognitive behavioral therapist, Wemimo Adebiyi, you've really, spoken into our minds this morning. I know it's the same way for our audience. Thank you very, very much for your keenness of insight. Thank you. And thank you too for watching. But let's tell you that the views and reactions of all our resource persons are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. Up next, we'll be having Your View with Murayo Afalabi and the ladies, and afterwards this morning with Yori Folari.